Hello and welcome back to the Misbehavior Podcast, the podcast for college student conduct professionals. My name is Colette,
And I'm Kurt.
and
We're in summer mode. It's summer mode.
we'd like to remind everybody we're getting excited for our first ever Misbehavior Book Club, the Just Desserts and Dissertations Book Club. And the first dissertation is Dr. Erin Kaplan's How the Student Conduct Process Impacts Student Belonging. If your college, like many, are worried about retention and building lifelong relationships with students and not just getting them to graduation, this is a must read, and that is July 16th. And the link to sign up for the virtual book club is in our podcast information. So we hope that you will join. We have quite a lot of people right now already signed up.
Now, Colette, I have not started reading yet because I am knee-deep in another dissertation. But how many stars are you giving this out of 10?
Oh, out of 10?
Out of 10.
10, baby.
10? I love it.
If I measured it by how often I reference it, yikes, I couldn't give it any less. It's beautifully written. The research is out of this world. I really admire anyone that can do great qualitative research.
Yeah.
And Erin showed a lot of self-awareness in identifying what biases she needed to look out for in her own research, but how to really welcome and the whole story from students that she interviewed. I believe we have a couple students that she interviewed signed up to be part of the book club.
Oh, nice. I think this was a brilliant idea. So kudos to you. I get to read a lot of dissertations in my side job, and I always worry that they're just going to sit on somebody's shelf and, somebody may stumble upon them in research, but really lifting these up and showcasing them and getting people excited about research and maybe sparking interest for somebody else to pursue a doctorate and do their own research, I think it's such a great idea.
Thank you. I didn't tell you we're going to have another special guest there, and that is a journalist from Inside Higher Ed who
Oh, wow.
registered, and we spoke this week. She wants to come and interview folks and give some attention to the scholarship. So that was really fun news to hear.
We love Inside Higher Ed.
Mm-hmm. I also want to add, we're going to, after book club on the 16th, we're going to extend the time and do the first ever Ms. Be Happy Hour, where folks who maybe don't want to do the book club, but just want to help build community are welcome to attend. So you can come to both, come to one or the other, but I think that we should all just have a chance to not talk about work. And the format will be good for introverts, good for extroverts. So hopefully anyone could come in and feel like they could join right in and feel comfortable.
I appreciate the considerations for the introverts.
Me
Very
too.
kind.
I still to this day, when I go to conferences, like, please don't make me have to walk into a room with strangers. I just want to know at least one person I can lock onto.
I just want to sit in the back by myself in the corner and watch everything and not be engaged in that way. I mean, obviously I want to be
agree.
engaged, but I don't want to, I'm not good at idle chit chat.
Me either. Me either.
Are you enjoying the conference so far? What's your favorite session? Did you find any good spots to eat? There are only so many questions you can ask a stranger at a conference.
It reminds me of moving in 10th grade, like that first day with your cafeteria tray, like, who looks like you can sit down next to them?
Who doesn't look like a mean girl?
Yeah.
Oh, Lordy.
Well, Kurt, we have something in common that it's going to kick off our conversation today.
Yes.
Do you want to kick it off?
It is my minor obsession with the Traitors, and specifically right now, the Traitors UK Celebrity Edition. Celebrity Traitors UK, phenomenal. I know we both watched it. I think you told me to watch it, and I was stuck on another season. I skipped over it and watched it last week.
I just read so many New York Times critics saying, like, this show is so great when the last US one launched. Do you want to describe for listeners who might not be Traitors fans yet what the Traitors is?
It is some of the most amazing sociological people watching. They get 20 to 24 people in a room, in this case, celebrities, and they have them sit around a round table and blindfold them. And the host picks three people to be the traitors, and the rest are the faithfuls. And it is the job of the traitors the entire game to be clandestine and try to pick people off. And it is the job of the faithfuls to try to sniff them out and see if they can catch a traitor. And there are challenges. They're all trying to win money for their respective charities. But for me, it is just some of the most fascinating sociological interactions between people and watching people leap to assumptions. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with it. It's fun, and it
Mhm.
is. Of course, it's fun. It's TV.
It's so deceptively simple. It's like a party game that we've probably all played, and it comes in different names. Every few years, there's a new version of it. It's also the complexities of relationships.
Yeah.
And it's like a reality show where during the daytime, over several weeks, they'll compete in little like field day competitions where they have to work collaboratively
Mm-hmm.
together. And then at night, they have to vote somebody off, like
Yes.
Survivor, but they have to try to vote the people who are subversively infiltrating their larger group, who can
Yeah.
be really wonderful humans.
And I think that's the round table where they do the voting for me is the most fascinating because in a general game where it's just 20 people that have never met each other, they have one day together to get to know each other before the game officially starts and a traitor is selected. And then they start watching each other and looking for clues that somebody is a traitor.
Mhm.
And the assumptions that they leap to, I think, are for me the most fascinating because I find myself wondering constantly, like, what lens are they bringing to the table that is having them reach this conclusion? Because as a watcher, you know who the traitors are, and you're watching them leap to assumptions. Oh, this person said they pronounced something incorrectly, or they dropped their fork during breakfast, so that must mean they were nervous, and that means they're a traitor. Yeah, it's crazy to watch. I every season is obviously different. You know, it's you've got a new group of people, the dynamics shift, but something about the celebrity version, I think, adds an extra layer of deception because these are people who are known quantities, but they're
Well, and
known.
a lot are performers, like, they
Yes,
are actors as a career, high
I th-
level.
I think one of the guys, Mark, he had gray hair. He was older. He said, "You know, I'm kind of known for playing a jerk on TV." He's like, "That's not who I am in real life, though." And
Yeah.
he lasted relatively long, but I think he was always worried that people are thinking, "Well, he plays this kind of person on TV, so that's who he is. He's probably a traitor."
So let's there just in this little 5-minute conversation, I have thought of so many conduct cases where dynamics like this feel exactly the same.
Yes.
So Mark came in worried that he would already be labeled the villain,
Hmm.
and, uh and he was. He was. The every It felt like every week they were questioning, like, "Oh, and we always have to go back to Mark." And I think of students in our offices with maybe they've got a thick little file from
Yeah.
things they did their first year, and assumptions can be made, like, "Well, he did it before, of course he'll do it again," and, um yeah, there's so many things, though, that feel like what we do professionally, like having to make judgment calls and,
Yes.
uh, you can't leave the room without voting somebody off, like, you can't leave the room before you make a decision about their case.
Somebody's leaving here with a sanction. I don't know who it is. I think about, any work we do with students, oftentimes, especially at the beginning of the year, we don't know what they're bringing with them, and we're making assumptions, um, often not intentionally, about who they are, and we're applying our own unique lens to their experience, without necessarily knowing them.
Mhm.
So I think that is the heart of what makes Traitors interesting, that, to what degree can you take a step back from your assumptions and start making decisions based on the relationship you develop versus the assumptions that you are bringing into the situation with you.
Yeah. I saw big differences. I watched the American Traitors first, and the difference culturally between them, uh, now I've only watched the British ones. I'm about to join you in starting the Canadian version, but the Americans in the wrap-up show where they all have a reunion and come back and talk about it, oh, they hold grudges.
They
If
do.
you wronged somebody in that game, people took it personally. They form alliances with, other groups, not based on character, but based on characteristics.
Yes.
So if you're a housewife, you're gonna bond with the other housewives, even if you hate each other.
Yes. And even if you don't know if they're a traitor.
And I found the British approached it as a game and a learning opportunity and something interesting.
Yeah, I think the pull that they draw from is different. I think what I notice about the American version when they do a celebrity version, they are often drawing from competitive reality TV shows like Survivor,
Mhm.
social um, reality shows like Big Brother, or The Housewives, which, I love, but they are prone to fighting and drama. So you're bringing together people that are used to competing and who are on TV to cause a kerfuffle, as opposed to the British version where I saw was was he like a historian or a mathematician or something? I'm trying to remember. He made it all the way to the end. Um, Historian and filmmaker, David Ol Olsoga. Yeah. I think they had a greater diversity of folks from different backgrounds that were,
Mhm.
Celia Imrie. I mean, she's a national treasure. She's
Yeah.
Nick Mohammed, from Ted Lasso. You've got Alan Carr. It was a star-studded list, but I don't think any of them are professional reality TV people, which is what you
No.
get in the American
Right,
version.
they are built to compete and outthink each other.
Yes, yes, and I fully agree. I think what you got out of in my opinion, from the British show was a richer exploration of collaboration. These are folks that by and large didn't work together, and they were not used to being in competitive reality TV, where all of the American version is in some form of competition. Even on Housewives, they're competing for attention. Big
Yeah.
Brother, they're competing for money. Oh my gosh. Survivor, they're competing for money. Um, yeah. And even like I loved Cat. And I don't want to
Mm.
say how far Cat got or what Cat's jam was, but it was so interesting to um, see somebody who is neurodivergent um, portrayed in just a very chaotic environment and talking about the realities of what it's like to participate in an event like this as somebody who is neurodivergent. Um,
And we had Jamie D'Amico on our show
mhm,
talking about that, and he would like to come back and really do a deeper dive into that particularly interesting part of, conduct, but, yeah, 'cause people were making assumptions like, "Cat, you haven't been making a lot of eye contact with folks
mhm.
this week, and, everybody else acted this way, but you acted this other way." And Cat said, like, I'm not gonna act like what you think is a normal person. And it was interesting.
At one point, somebody, I don't know if it was Steven or one of the other folks, had clocked her and said, I think you're a traitor because you take a lot of naps. And a traitor would have to be
Staying up
deliberating.
all night,
Yes,
yeah.
deliberating. And Kat said, as a neurodivergent person, this sort of takes the wind out of my sails. So I do need to take a break every once in a while and recharge. And uh, yeah, it was,
Let's unpack that a little bit, because
yeah,
that feels like a hearing too,
yeah,
where
it
we
does.
make assumptions like the
Hmm.
student came in, they wouldn't even look up, they weren't taking it seriously, they were sitting there taking notes the whole time. And then if you ask about it, like Steven asked about it, and they can explain, like, "Oh, yeah, that I'm not gonna be acting that way."
Yeah, I think we spend a lot. I mean, when I was coming up through the system, part of our training was just thinking about the cultural lens through which you are interacting with a student in a hearing versus the culture that they bring. So it might not be appropriate for them to make eye contact if they are in a conduct hearing and they perceive you as somebody who has a position of authority. It could be considered disrespectful. So I assume now in the current world of student conduct that there are discussions about neurodivergent students and how to have a meaningful conversation and what assumptions you might be bringing with you when you are interacting with somebody who is neurodivergent. That sounds, am I using the right phrase?
I go back and forth between neurodivergent, neurodifferent. I hope folks give us grace.
Yeah. I heard somebody say the other day neuroatypical and it
Mhm.
grated at me a little bit. Like it almost felt they didn't mean it in a judgmental way, but it didn't it felt like it was inherently loaded because you were saying atypical instead of and comparing it to typical. It felt like normal, abnormal. I don't know.
The fact that we're having this conversation, though, I was about to say, I don't think we're talking about it enough,
I
and
agree.
giving people the skills, because it's not our business. This is a diagnosis, so we're not allowed to just call um, the disability services office or accessibility folks and ask, like, "Oh, is so and so on the spectrum? Is so and so
Hmm.
ADHD?" And knowing how to sensitively ask, and also how many people are not diagnosed, but they are presenting. But to be able to ask, like, actually, we asked Dr. Norcross, the music conductor, about what do you do when you just can't read a student? And he
Mm,
said, I ask them. I just say I'm having a hard time reading you. And I
yeah,
thought, how easy is that? And how many missed opportunities have we had?
and I'm sure there are students who don't feel comfortable disclosing upfront because of a bad experience that they've had in their life that they were maybe treated differently because they wanted to share something about themselves.
In that example you gave with Stephen Fry when he asked Kat about, like, "You are really tired, you are sleepy in the morning, and the Traitors have to stay up at night and do all this extra work where the rest of us get to go back to the hotel and sleep."
Hmm.
He was right,
He was.
and Kat deflected, like, I have a diagnosis." And the conversation ended there. They did not vote Kat off that night, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure Kat even got any votes.
I don't know if Kat did either. Hmm.
But I'm thinking, "Stephen, you have very little evidence to go on, but you may have had a preponderance of evidence in that case." And so we have to be careful too to not use that information as necessarily mitigating. It's just part of the bigger puzzle.
And I appreciated Kat's vulnerability in going on, such a widely aired show, and peeling back some of the layers. I think so much of what I have learned as, how do I want to say this? I grew up in a very rural space. So for me, a lot of times seeing things on TV was my only exposure to other cultures or people that were different from me. I grew up in a school. We had two African American students, two Hispanic students. So even on the very limited TV that I had access to, not having cable when I was a kid, seeing things on PBS and seeing representation of other cultures, it did make me it build awareness. And I've thought about that with LGBTQ people. I can look at Will and Grace and say, okay, it was problematic in some regards, but what an amazing thing to have that representation on TV to start to normalize queer people for swaths of the country who maybe felt like they had never interacted with somebody that was from that background. And I think now starting to see more neurodivergent characters on TV, I hope that that is helping the neurodivergent community feel like they are more seen and um, giving people who are not neurodivergent some of the language to talk and have conversations about it that are productive and, make people feel maybe less awkward
Mhm.
asking a question or knowing the right way to ask something. It was interesting to me that that was a part of Cat, but they didn't make it the whole of who Cat was. They
Yes.
equally focused on, or more so, I think, the fact that Cat was a musician. So, yeah, I thought that was fun.
Did not notice this on the American version, but the British version, every season, they had folks with visible disabilities and invisible. And
Oh,
you're right. There was one woman who had no hand,
okay.
and there was one of the I call them field day activities. They were all like tied to a post, and they had to get themselves untied and then go do this activity. And she's like, "This is where not having a hand sure comes in handy." I was just like, "Oh my gosh, yes,
Yeah.
humor and just obvious." And I loved that they were very conscious about their casting.
Did you have any, this might include spoilers, any favorite moments from this season of The Traitors?
From the celebrity or from the, what do they call them? The commoners? I love the commoner seasons too. Oh, I just loved.
It's all good TV for me. I would
Mhm.
say for me, I was curious about your favorite moments from the Celebrity UK edition.
Actually, all of the seasons, but I'm not sure I can do it without doing a spoiler, but at the very end, the very last big reveal where the last traitor revealed themselves, on the American versions, there would have just been outrage and like, "Oh, you betrayed us all and you made us trust you." And the person admitted it and just immediately started weeping and said, "It's been so hard. Like, it's hard to lie." Almost all of the traders say it's so hard to lie, which
Hmm.
we should talk about conduct hearings. But that is the job.
Yeah.
You like, maybe you made a pact with all your friends, like, "We are all gonna lie. No one's gonna admit who bought the booze. No one's gonna admit who set the fire." Um But as soon as they started crying, the other competitors immediately went into support mode. Like, "It's
Yep.
okay. We understand. We have empathy." That must have been hard. And I, I want a world where we can see both sides of things. Like, oh, damn it, I wanted to win.
Yeah.
But also, you're a good person.
I did feel like that was a favorite moment for me in the game too, because it felt like the game just sort of immediately dissolved and they were all just being people together and, um, recognizing that the game was amazing, but there was an emotional toll. Like they're like having to be on and lying when maybe it's not part of your everyday persona, gosh, it's got to be stressful. I was also, I'll try not to spoil either, just thinking about the reveal at the end and the, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
When somebody thought it was going one way and then it went another way, I was like, that person, I, throughout the entire season, captured my heart. But in that moment, he was just so darling.
Well, and they're playing for charities that they care a lot
Yes,
about. And they, oh gosh, he was ready to take that trophy and the big check and give it to their charity. And that is heartbreaking.
it is. My other favorite moment was Celia Imrie farting in that church. And they left it in.
Oh, we hit rewind multiple times.
She owned it. She's like, I think she even said, she's like, I did it. She's like, one thing about me, I'll always own it. But I mean, talk about somebody who, I mean, she has enough celebrity. She very easily could have been like, I'm going to need you all to cut that because, but what a human moment. It was
Oh my
hilarious.
gosh, all-time favorite moment probably
Yeah.
from all the shows I've seen.
I hope they can go back and look at data that shows like how many people rewatch certain sections. I just want to see a giant spike where that happened.
Mhm. The Brits, I've spent plenty of time on YouTube looking up their interviews, more so like the commoners. I I hope people will forgive me. I just
Everyday
um
people,
every day the mortals. Um
plebes.
but when they go out to do their press promotion and they'll go in a group of the people that won, the people that lost, and they are the best of friends because they were at camp. It's like they spent, a month at camp
Yep.
together in this castle. And the Americans, I have not seen talking about like, oh my gosh, I met some of the best friends I'll have for my whole life. Uh, and their ability to forgive, and that feels like a restorative,
Mm-hmm.
um, like everyone was made whole. The winners, the losers, and they can just see each other as the people that they are.
I do wonder if this is a uniquely non-American thing. I don't want to say even a British thing
Mhm.
because I feel like I see it in Canadian shows too. But also like the Great British Baking Show. I don't know if you watch that,
Mhm.
but very similar. They're competing against each other, but they also will help each other if
Oh,
somebody's cake is falling over. Two people
yes.
will run and help them put it back together. Even at the very end, all of the contestants come back for the reveal and to celebrate the people who won. And it's all uh, I mean, maybe they're editing out negativity, but it just looks like they're all there to support the winner and they're also happy. And, then they do the little, like, what's happened since this aired. And they show them, like, oh, these 5 people get together all the time now because they live close to each other. And this group traveled up to Wales to meet with this person.
Yeah.
It's just, it's nice.
We talk about building belonging and building like that is a community that they have built. And maybe it is just the British ethos. So they don't have to work as hard at it as a hall director and a group of RAs might have to. But I think it deserves to be kind of scrutinized. Like why are we not developing these types of communities where everybody realizes like one person's success is everybody's success.
Yes, it is. I think it is a growing conversation in our political landscape. When you look at, I think what's happening in New York City right now with Zohran Mamdani, he seems like somebody who is trying to foster those kinds of discussions where people are being brought along and not left behind.
Mhm.
I-
I'd like to talk about something that stands out to me as a conduct person when I watch Traitors, and I think it's more American, but they all did it. Is in the beginning interviews when you get to meet all the competitors,
Mhm.
almost all of them will say, I am a fantastic judge of character. I am going to ace
Yes.
this game because I can read people. And they usually, for the mortal version of the Brits, they'll usually include a detective or a police
Mm-hmm.
chief or someone who does,
A psychic.
yeah, actor. Like, oh, I do summer stock, and so I'm an actor, so I'll be able to, do this. And there's research. One of Malcolm Gladwell's books particularly talks about this. Humans are not good judges of character. We can't tell when somebody is lying. And we all think we can,
Yep.
but at least the British mid-season, usually even all of those people, and some of them are really arrogant or interrogators in their approach. They finally admit, like, I have no clue.
Mm-hmm. It does seem like a humbling experience that you may have been exceptionally good, or you thought you were good at, as a police officer, being able to suss out if somebody was telling the truth or not. And then you go on a show like this, either it's the context is different and you can't do it, or you were never doing it well at all. And you got to say you were good at it because of the legal system and, the fact that it's in many ways, in my opinion, rigged against
Yeah.
against people. So yeah.
It, can we talk about the cauldron, like the table, the voting table, where
Yeah.
they have a few minutes where they can question each other, and then they
Hmm.
have to make their vote of who they're going to vote off, and that feels like a hearing to me.
It does. And
Uh,
it's chaos also. Um I feel like there at least half the time I watch this show, I go in based on, and maybe it's just the editor's cut. You think you know what's going to be put on the table, and the dynamics between the people. It's fascinating to me to watch what people will pick up on,
mhm,
and you throw your evidence out like you would in a conduct hearing,
yeah,
um, and you see what sticks with people, and then people start pulling at the same thread, and suddenly the heat's completely off of the person you thought was going home that night, and it is 100% on somebody that maybe you were not expecting.
yeah. And then the different ways. Well, there's the questioning, like, Kurt, I'm just coming. You knew I was coming all day, and I just think you're a traitor. I don't know why, but I can tell. And I've seen those types of hearings. I see folks be a little more like Stephen Fry. You just seem really sleepy every morning, and I don't know, but if I put two and two together, it feels
Hmm.
like you might be a traitor. And that felt like it would go further.
Yeah, I think so. I think it elicits a conversation instead of a defense mechanism.
Hmm.
I was just thinking of going back to the whole conversation between Stephen and Kat. It was a conversation, and Kat got to share why there were naps included in their day. And I think that there are other situations I think of where it just becomes a shouting match of like, I saw you do this, and this is what you meant when you did that. And then well, that's not what I meant at all. And I think you're the traitor because it just becomes a defense structure instead of a conversation.
Yeah. And the goal then in a hearing, it just changes from trying to educate to trying to win. And in that case, Kat did what I see a lot of students do. Kat told the truth. I asked you about being sleepy, gave me an answer that is truthful and logical, but it did not address the bigger concern.
Mm,
And I see students come in so practiced, like, I didn't smoke the pot. I didn't smoke the pot. Like, okay, I can believe you there, but there were 10 empty bottles in your like, there's more to it. There are also other folks who at the table, the way they respond to those things. So Kat was very measured, but I see crying
mm.
can get people a long way. The criers who are the traitors. They usually go very, very far every season, every culture.
Interesting.
And I think that we do that sometimes too in student conduct. We let crying affect our logic.
That never worked on me, I have to say.
Yeah, there are different types of crying, right?
Yes. 100%.
Because
100%.
I bet you had students who cried where you were just like, let's take a minute and then we'll keep going, as opposed to crying like as their shield. Like that shield is not gonna work.
And I honestly, I could think I knew why they were crying. I think some people cried because they were stressed out. I think some people cried because they thought they were getting off the hook. Um, Either way, my response was always the same. I didn't keep tissues in my office. And that was as
Oh,
much for me. I said, there is a bathroom down the hall. Why don't you take a minute and, collect yourself and come back when you're ready to talk? I don't want to have a conversation with somebody when they are full on, heaving or having an emotional moment. Like, who makes a good decision when you're in that kind of crisis? So that was always my MO.
that office had that little private
Mm-hmm.
bathroom.
Yep.
Oh gosh, if every place had that. 'Cause I think of many students where I gave them my dean of students office,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I'll go out to the seating area and I'll be ready when you are. And
Yeah.
I just trusted. I didn't know if my
they're
wallet was in my
they're going
phone.
through
Was
your files, changing guilty to not guilty, like a Ferris Bueller situation.
But if you had a little private place for them to
Yeah.
compose themselves. The other deflection I see is anger.
Mhm.
And that usually comes from the innocent people, but it is read as guilt. I'm thinking of Michael Rappaport. He was
Oh,
on one of the
yes.
oh God, he just lives anger.
Yes.
He sees red wherever he goes. And he was suspicious from the very beginning for everybody because people,
Hmm.
I think, they think anger equals guilt.
I think in practice, I have often thought of anger as a deflection and the a deflection of somebody who is defiant and who has done what they're being
Mhm.
accused of and doesn't think that it's fair that um, they've been caught or that there's a consequence associated with it, that they have to talk to somebody about it. I don't think I've ever thought of that the way I think about it on the show, which is people are angry because they're being accused of something they didn't do. So that's a disconnect for me between the show and what I remember as being a conduct officer, at least as I experienced having a conversation with somebody. I almost always assumed that they had done it and that they were just angry that I was getting a phone call from their parents after after they left.
Yeah. I associate it with uh, the school I worked at that did a lot. We did a lot of Title IX cases. Very few students report an
Hmm.
assault compared to how many assaults happen. And I started to think, and I would love to have this studied, that the ones who report have a certain personality type a lot where they can get angry
Hmm.
and they're not very likable. And I wonder if predators see that, like, oh, nobody's gonna believe her if she
Interesting.
tells her story. But there was a lot of anger in that, and boards do not like that. They want the victim to be victimy, not to be fiery. And I, I just, I don't know if this is a fair comparison. I'd love to hear from listeners about this, but I just see on Traitors a lot where people who get angry get voted off, and
Yeah.
that they have this thing. Well, I'm not sure if you're a traitor. You're just a really bad faithful. We don't
Yes.
like you. And how does that fit into our systems?
Yeah, I think about that a lot because it reminds me of a bell-shaped curve that I think a lot of what people expect is that middle behavior. It's what's
Mhm.
comfortable for everybody. And when somebody is an outlier, they're too quiet or they're too loud, they become problematic. And I've sat there and thought, gosh, I would vote that person off too, even if I knew they were a faithful,
Yeah.
because they're an annoyance. They're distracting from what I perceive as the game. Um, but I think our work is to expand what people think of as the norm. Like there should be room in the game for all types of people, even if somebody's annoying. They
Yeah.
deserve to be in the game. They deserve to be in higher education. Even if somebody is more quiet than we are comfortable with, they still deserve to have access to higher education or the game or whatever the metaphor is. So yeah, I think it's troubling that people are constantly being herded to this center where everybody emotes in a certain way or speaks in a certain way. I find it troubling that, if you look at how people are voted off, it does seem that oftentimes the folks who are black, brown, queer tend to be voted off first. And I think
Mhm.
it's because people are not able to step back from their assumptions and say, well, this person is acting weird, so they must be a traitor. Okay, well, how much of that is the cultural assumptions that you're bringing to the table, that you're seeing something that you're clocking as different and you're reading it as a traitor? It could just be a cultural difference that
Yes.
you have not yet experienced. Um, and the fact that it comes up every season, I want it to be a part of the conversation. I want somebody to go on and challenge people and say, the thing that we think that we're clocking as traitor behavior is possibly a cultural norm. This person is loud because
Mhm.
it is a part of their culture. This person is not interacting with you because it is not how they approach conflict in their culture. But instead of having that discussion, they get voted off. That is the only disappointment I have with the show, I think.
But it is a mirror to hold up that
It is.
hopefully we can talk about. I see that in reports we get about classroom behavior
Mm-hmm.
where someone wants to police somebody who's not just completely sit down in your seat and
Yes.
fold your hands. And
And a lot of that, I think, also, we haven't brought this piece into it, is generational expectations about what kind of behavior is appropriate in certain settings. And I do think that there are, students coming up now through K-12 who are being taught by millennials and are used to engaging in a classroom in a way that's different than somebody who maybe has been in higher education teaching for 35 years and who learned from a baby boomer or a greatest generation person, and they have an idea in their head of what it means to be faculty and student. I do think so many schools are really good at developing faculty and having these conversations, but there are most certainly, I think, still instances where you're going to encounter a conflict between a student and a faculty member that is most likely based on generational expectations.
ooh, lots to unpack there. And I think as people are listening to this, there are lots of nodding heads like, oh
Hmm.
man, yeah, we've got to get our heads around this.
I had one more trader related observation that I think is so fascinating. And it's how quickly, once they do the go around the table and decide who's a trader and who's a faithful, how quickly they establish an identity around what it means to be a faithful and how quickly they adopt, well, I'm a faithful. And there's a language around I'm a faithful. Here are the things I do that prove that I'm a faithful. It's almost like they're setting norms or they're adopting a set of norms. And it reminds me of those first couple days of class at the beginning of a semester. You throw a whole bunch of people into a space that don't know each other, and very quickly they start developing ideas of what is normative behavior in this place that we've never been before.
Mhm.
Um, and how quickly people can fall prey to, I'm in this group and this is normal behavior. and I'm adopting this behavior because this is what all of the cool people do, or this is what all the people on the soccer team do, or this is what all of the folks who are homeschooled do. It becomes a new set of norms that just it blossoms out of nowhere seemingly. So I see it in the show. It's interesting to me, and I do wonder if it's still that present on a college campus. That day one, I don't work on a residential campus anymore, so I think it's a little different. I would be curious to know if that is still at play for folks who live on a residential campus. I think of our values at the school I work at. It's mission, vision, values. Those are the values I think most often that when we think about values, it's how do we as employees interact with each other and students in the community. But I don't know if it's what we mean when we talk about what our students will look like when they've graduated from the school that I work at.
Yeah.
And I think by and large, if you just replaced employee with student, they make sense. But I don't know that I've ever taken a step back from that and thought about, do these apply to students? And if we don't have values for our students, then how can they expect to understand what's expected of them? Or, we've got the code of conduct, we've got a student handbook, but I don't think we ever, I'm trying to think, is there anything that says here are the things that we expect from students here, or here's what you can expect from us?
That's where I love, my dean, he has taken some of the language out of, like, build a sense of student community to just building a sense of shared community, or
Mm-hmm.
values are what you model,
Mm-hmm.
not what you enforce, or
Right.
and there are spoken values and there are unspoken values. How do you have a reckoning around that?
Yes. I think about that a lot. We talk about culture at work, but there's always the undercurrent, the subculture. And oftentimes I think that's a reaction to something that is not being fulfilled in the mission or in the values that exist. People either leave, or there is an undercurrent of people who are like, this, I don't believe in what is happening here,
Mhm.
but I work here and here's what I believe in, and they find their people.
Yep, their
Yeah.
tribes. Kurt, this was amazing. I am so happy we could share. First of all, I love talking about the Traitors, but I love looking at things and seeing inspiration for the work that we do, and this was super fun.
I agree. If we did an online game, it would be fun if we did a Traitors game sometime. Like, could we do that virtually?
Oh, I let's continue that conversation at the Ms. Be Happy Hour. We're gonna have
Yes.
breakout rooms, and I think one will be about like favorite TV shows or pop culture. So that,
Traitors misbehavior style.
yeah. Oh, let's think.
Okay.
How fun would that be?
That would.
Thank you, listeners. We're so happy that you joined us, and we will see you next time on Misbehavior. Misbehavior is written and produced by Colette Shaw and Kurt Doan. Theme music was written and performed by Kevin MacLeod from incompetech.com. You can contact Ms. Behavior at msbehaviorcollege@gmail.com. That's msbehaviorcollege@gmail.com.